Welcome to Wrasslin Raw! All right, you're listening to Wrasslin Raw, the podcast that takes you back to when Raw became war and Attitude ruled. Thank you for joining us. You're here with Ryan Arico.
For some reason, I don't find Brian Christopher sexy.
Joe Giammatteo.
There may have been some racial slurs written on the walls. I don't know.
Oh, it's good to hear your voice, Joe. I don't know if I could have handled another week with that degenerate by myself.
And his pelvic thrusting.
I'm the one and only Jason Bartlett, and we're going to examine WWE history, one episode of Raw is War at a time. But first, a quick shout out to a couple of unique listeners I found out. We have Paige and Travis, students at Wilmington High School in New Wilmington, Pennsylvania. I guess Wrasslin Raw is being spread around the high school there, more addictive than any drug the teachers could have warned them about. Ooh, I know.
They're better off with this era of wrestling than current, so...
Yeah, right.
Hey, good on them for finding the good shit.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we come along with that.
Well...
Degenerates.
In this episode of Wrasslin Raw, we're going to be talking about the Raw that aired on October 20th, 1997. This Raw was recorded at the Myriad Convention Center in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, and features Vince McMahon, Jim Ross, and Jerry the King Lawler on commentary. Are you guys ready?
I'm ready.
Ready?
All right, then. Let's get into it. We didn't get any kind of video package to start this, just the regular intro of a bunch of beefcakes duking it out in a burning warehouse. And Vince was especially loud in roaring the welcome and emphasizing freedom of expression. The Legion of Doom were introduced out to the ring, the new tag team champions, having won the titles last week on Raw. And I didn't exactly know what was happening here until Ahmed Johnson's music started to play, and Vince growled, "Oh, yeah!" at us. Ahmed looked about 40 pounds overweight. 15 pounds of that was baby oil. And then Ken Shamrock back in action, coming through the curtain. A lot of crowd noise for Kenny there. That was good to hear. And that introduction of this new stable is what took us into our first match of the night. The Nation of Domination, Kama Mustafa, and Rocky Maivia, with D'Lo Brown and Farooq, defeat Ahmed Johnson and Ken Shamrock with the Legion of Doom by pinfall in 6 minutes. And of course, this started as an 8-man rumble until it was just the scheduled competitors in the ring. There was a strong Rocky Sucks chant at the start of things. But then it was noticed that D-Generation X set up seating at the top of the ramp. Shawn Michaels and Triple H were there in chairs with Rick Rude and Chyna, respectively, to each side. Shawn held up a "I'd rather be in China" sign. I liked that. Back in the ring, Ahmed Johnson almost broke Rocky's forearm and ankle, putting Rocky out of the ring. That was while Shawn was holding up an Uncle Tom 316 sign. Oh, yeah.
Farooq, I think Farooq wrote that one.
Probably. In the ring, Ahmed almost broke Kama's neck with an almost botched power slam.
Jeez.
And up on the ramp, Triple H held up a sign saying, "Who booked this crap?" Thankfully, Ahmed was out of the ring at that point, and Ken Shamrock was in, and he looked great throughout this. It was a common theme with old Kenny there. There was some beautifully timed interference from Rocky in a split second while the ref's back was turned. We've mentioned it before, but the Nation operates like a well-oiled machine, despite Ahmed hoarding all of the oil. Ken Shamrock kicked out of an unnamed people's elbow. Rocky punched him in the face for it. I loved that. And as a matter of fact, just Rocky and Ken in the ring together was an amazing combination. They were working so fucking well together in this match. We got a glimpse of Rick Rude talking to Farooq at one point. I wasn't sure what that was about, but I was interested. And I also realized that there hadn't been any interference from non-competitors yet. And I loved that. This had been just the 2 tag teams. But just as I typed that, Farooq came in with Rick Rude's briefcase to hit Ken Shamrock in another perfectly timed ref distraction, giving Rocky the pin and the win. Just as the Nation was leaving, Ahmed rolled his fat ass out of the ring to run after them. And when LOD went to follow, the Godwins came out of nowhere with trash cans to put down LOD. Ken Shamrock was spared all of that, so that was good. Guys, I was a little hesitant going into this because, Ahmed. But once Ahmed got out of the ring and then stayed out of the ring because he didn't get tagged back in after that first salvo, this was a great match. Obviously, Ken Shamrock and Rocky Maivia were the standouts to me. I wanted to highlight them especially here. But I also wanted to reiterate one more time just how smooth the Nation is as a group. Always good to see. Joe, please get us going on this one.
Yeah, well, first off, it's good to be back this week, and it's nice to see LOD finally getting the titles.
Yeah, you missed that. Yeah.
Long overdue. Ride that wave while you have it, I mean, the crowd is still super into the LOD, so keep those titles on them for a little bit. I agree with you, Bartlett, with who the focus was on here for me, which was Rocky and Ken Shamrock for most of it. Ahmed Johnson nearly ending the career of both Kama and Rocky.
Well, he figures if I'm going to get injured, I'm going to take people down with me.
Right. And the overuse of the oil, when he jumped up onto the ring apron, he almost slipped and fell.
An oil slick of his own making.
Yeah. Yes. Rocky is really working well with the Rocky Sucks heat.
Yeah.
I think that it's really great. And Ken Shamrock, he's really getting into that amazing status here. I mean, he just looks like such a fierce competitor, like when he's walking down to the ring. And he really knows how to adapt to the worked pro wrestling style, which isn't a surprise since he started in wrestling before UFC, but it's just really nice to see. He's really adapting very quickly, to both of these guys, really, Rocky and Ken Shamrock, just really picking up on things really quick, and it's cool to see.
Yeah, I agree with you both here. This was a pretty entertaining match. It starts kind of like we've seen the last few weeks here. Even though the Legion of Doom are not in this match, that's who the crowd's chanting for. That's all they want to see. And then Ahmed Johnson comes down, and my Lord, how is it possible? I mean, at this point, he's graduated from baby oil to just straight Vaseline. This is petroleum jelly that was dripping off of his body. It's the only explanation for how it could be caked on that thick. Baby oil just doesn't have the viscosity to hold onto the skin like that, But Rocky, Joe, you brought it up. At this point, Rocky's able to just bathe in the Rocky Sucks chanting. He doesn't have to worry about being humiliated from it, being a baby face. He gets to just go in there and take it in and be the heel they want him to be. And he does a great job. Unfortunately, we do start off with Ahmed in the ring, but they had a good game plan here. They got him out of the ring, and he stayed the fuck out of the ring. Shamrock, he especially looked good with Rocky, but he looked good with Kama too. Just Shamrock with whoever was in there was looking really good. I got a chuckle out of a kid's sign in the crowd. It said Kane rules, but it was Kane spelled with a C and not a K. I mean, I can't blame him. I don't think we've seen it in spelling yet, but I just thought it was kind of funny to see that.
So like Kane from the Bible, like
right.
Cain.
Yeah. But other than that, very, very solid match to start things off. And then we end it with the Godwins. And Joe, a couple weeks ago, you said that they need a gimmick overhaul. And, well, we kind of got it. At least their costumes did here. Their overhauls are gone. And instead they came out. They looked like they were like circus carnies is what they kind of reminded me of now. So
that's the makeover we wanted.
Yeah, we want creepy carnies. We want small hands and smell like cabbage. That's what we want.
Maybe that kid in the crowd was a fan of Professor Vernice Kane of Slippery Rock.
Oh my goodness!
It's probable, is what it is.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right. Let's move it along. So after a commercial break, Vince let us know that a former WCW champion will be with us tonight. And at this point, I thought to myself, well, Vince has to be referring to either Farooq or Vader.
Yeah.
Because I had to go and look it up, who he could be talking about. And in the list of WCW champions, the only ones on the roster are Farooq and Vader. So maybe this was a swerve, maybe not, I don't know. But I was curious to see how they were going to continue to use that in commentary, if at all. Also, The Undertaker is going to be breaking his silence tonight on what happened at Bad Blood and the reveal of his brother Kane. That, however, was with a K, yes. That was interrupted by Farooq at the commentary table, though, yelling, "Are you racist?" at Vince, with Vince yelling back, "You know damn well I'm not." Behind Vince was a Farooq is hooked on Ebonics sign. And, I thought that was hilarious. So fitting. The Nation got in the ring, then, with Farooq on a mic to cut a promo on the racist WWF, stating that this country was built on the back of a black man, and yelling to Bret the Hitman Hart to get his pale ass out here and settle things. Somebody had trashed somebody else's locker room. I had a bit of a problem following that. I think it was the Hart Foundation supposedly trashed the Nation of Domination's locker room, but like I said, I wasn't too clear on that. Hey man, whatever. Bret Hart and the Hart Foundation do end up coming out, but I'll pause it here. So even though we were only about 20 minutes into the episode at this point, the matches were coming at us like pretty rapid fire. There were no lengthy promos or in-ring interviews to warm us up. They went straight for action in that first match, and it felt like they were trying to keep that energy level up with the way that the Nation called out the Hart Foundation almost immediately after that first match. So, Joe, did you have anything on Farooq's challenge here, or maybe the difference in the way that the show is starting tonight?
Not really. It just seems a little bit odd to me that they're kind of building this bridge between Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels with this racist angle between Farooq and the Hart Foundation. So yeah, it's just a little confusing because we're focused on Bret versus Shawn, but then you kind of have Farooq and the Nation in there for some reason. It's like they're trying a little too hard to go with this fake racism angle, I think.
Yeah, I don't have a ton to add here. It does feel a little bit different and just how quickly we're going from match to match. But Farooq did a pretty good job here getting in an argument with Vince after calling him racist. He says, would you mind if I moved next to you or if I dated your daughter? And then he says to Vince, I didn't think so. And then got in the ring. Farouk's doing a pretty good job with this angle. They did lose me a little bit with the locker room because there didn't seem to be any indication that there was any race involved with it. It was just someone came and vandalized their locker room. But when he called Bret's pale ass out here, I popped. I thought that was hilarious. Good for that.
Well, that took us straight into our next match. Bret the Hitman Hart with Owen Hart, the British Bulldog, Jim the Anvil Neidhart, and Jim the Anvil Neidhart's goatee defeat Farooq with D'Lo Brown, Rocky Maivia, Kama Mustafa by pinfall in 8 minutes and 14 seconds. Bret Hart came out to cheers, and it made me a little sad because this was the second match of the night. We've talked about what it typically means to hold that place on the card and what might have been if the champion were maybe in, I don't know, the headlining match instead of fucking DOA and the Godwins. I don't know, just throwing that out there. Things started off hot with Farooq on the offensive and Bret selling well. Spectacular reversals out of Bret, though, too. But then D-Generation X came down to get on commentary, and I was kind of annoyed because I didn't want to have my focus drawn away from a match that was being worked really well and that the crowd was behind. It's such a rare event anymore whenever we get a match that is really good and the crowd recognizes it, too. Bret tried to get out and go after Shawn, but the Nation intercepted him. That started a brawl outside. DX got away while the Nation and the Foundation went at it. We had a commercial break there. The Headbangers were playing with LOD action figures. Thrasher did a really good whelp in imitating Hawk. It was a pretty good commercial. When we came back, thankfully things were back to the action in the ring. Bret and Farooq had picked up where they had left off. I couldn't tell if it was the 2 cups of coffee I had before watching this or not, but the energy pouring out of the ring was just palpable to me. Up until Bret tried to do the figure 4 on the ring post. I mean, obviously that's going to create another brawl outside and kind of derail things a little bit, but that was also the perfect opportunity for Stone Cold Steve Austin in what was a complete surprise to me, coming in through the crowd to hit Farooq with a stunner and just as quickly exit over the barrier. The crowd exploded for it. Bret got back in the ring to pin Farooq, and I loved Farooq like weakly twitching to try to kick out, but only barely moving himself. That was great. The nation stopped after that to yell at Vince, eliciting yet another, well, everything's my fault from Vince. As this segment ended with multiple stunner replays. So like I said in my breakdown, this was another great match. This was full of energy, full of great work, full of great storytelling. And DX, I mean, it wasn't terrible, but it was the only thing that I didn't like because it drew my attention away. Everything else, including Stone Cold's hit and run, was gold, Jerry. Gold. Ryan, what'd you think of it?
Yeah, I enjoyed a good portion of this match, and it started from the very beginning. Once Farooq called Bret Hart out here early, as we learned, this isn't when the match was supposed to take place, and to further hammer that point home, the Hart Foundation isn't ready, and Owen comes out, he needs to put his jacket on, they help him put his belt on. I thought that was pretty comical. I enjoyed it. I didn't enjoy D-Generation X coming out and taking over commentary again for the same reason as you. It's just, we had 2 really good wrestlers in there and I didn't want the focus taken away. We then go quickly to a commercial and these bone-crunching action figures I thought were pretty cool. And if I'm not mistaken, Bartlett, your Crush action figure is a bone-crunching action figure, isn't it?
Well, it's supposed to be, but because it's a Crush figure, it doesn't do anything right.
Oh.
All right. Well, still.
Good thing it only cost $5.
Good thing I was paid to take it off someone's hands.
Yes.
But once we got back from the commercial, things really settled down and it became a pretty damn good match, which is no shocker between Bret Hart and Farooq, but I thought they really worked well together. They were dishing it out. Then when Bret goes out to do the figure 4 on the ring post, the nation knocks him out as the ref is staring right at him. And then he starts to count Bret Hart out. That confused me. I'm not sure why the nation didn't get disqualified there, but whatever. That was just a setup for the crowd to pop over Stone Cold coming out and giving the stunner and the eventual victory to Bret Hart, who comes in and looks a bit confused as to why Farouk's laying out so easily like that. But he does take the victory. So it took a little bit before we got focused on it, but once we did, it was a damn entertaining match.
Yeah, I don't have anything negative about the match itself. I like both of these guys a lot, Bret Hart and Farooq. I thought it was a good match. I was a little confused, though, with why we're putting this in the first half of the show, just randomly thrown in there. It's, again, to me, it's more evidence that the screw job was booked weeks or months in advance, because since Bret Hart won this title from The Undertaker, he has been, the belt itself has just been so devalued, the fucking Patriot, and just random Bret Hart matches. I know this is non-title, but I don't know. They're just not really putting too much focus on the title itself. So that's a little bit odd to me, but we know what's coming, right? So I guess it's understandable. But Steve Austin coming in and giving a stunner to Farooq is just, that's just proof that the building is shaking and there's really no meaning behind this. It's not like some big payoff, he finally got his hands on Farooq. Right. It's just a random stunner. I know they've had some words these past couple weeks with each other, but it just shows you how over Steve Austin is, and he still can't even work a match at this point, so it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and it makes me wonder if the only reason to have this match specifically with Farooq was to get that Stone Cold run-in, to hit that Stone Cold quota in the first hour.
Yeah.
Just to get a pop out of it, you know?
Yeah. I mean, he's going to get a match with Owen. Yeah,
Right.
it's Steve and Owen, but yeah. I mean, if they're going to throw Farooq in somewhere in random spots, I have no problem with that.
Yeah. All right. So still to come. Later, we're going to have Shawn Michaels versus Owen Hart in a champion versus champion match with both titles on the line. That was pretty interesting to hear. Something that was also interesting is that you can pick up a copy of WWF the Magazine with a cover story by Vic Venom and a story, centerfold story on Kane titled Planting the Demon Seed, which is hilarious given where the story eventually goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then an audible what the fuck escaped my mouth as Jeff fucking Jarrett came to the ring wearing business casual. Jeff got on the microphone to tell us that he refused to sign again with WCW, naming Eric Bischoff specifically, and ended up cutting a kayfabe shoot promo on why he left WCW. And I popped my ass off when Jeff pointed out that he left the WWF 2 years ago for the exact same reasons. Jeff pointed out that the country music star gimmick sucked and just kept going with that, and at that point I was rock fucking hard. He said, Vince can take With My Baby Tonight and stick it up his butt, and I couldn't contain myself. It was amazing. Jeff moved on to address Bret Hart, and I love the idea of these two second-generation wrestlers having a program. I mean, I don't think we're going to get any of that, but the idea is a very good one. Jeff went on to hit Shawn Michaels, referring Shawn's hand signals to his boys in Atlanta. And even Stone Cold Steve Austin wasn't safe, with Jeff saying Austin shows up to pop the crowd by saying the word ass 10 or 15 times a night. God damn. Vince started to groan at what Jeff was saying, and the King chimed in to say, "You get what you pay for, Vince, don't complain now," which I loved. And Jeff ended up tossing the microphone at the camera and exiting the ring, ending this segment. So this was another shock to me, and really this was the bigger shock than Stone Cold interrupting earlier. I didn't realize Jeff Jarrett would be coming back at this time, and I don't remember Jeff doing this shoot promo, but by God, the episode up to this point had just kept on delivering this great shit, and I was loving it. I was fucking loving this episode so far. Ryan, what did you have on the surprise return of Jeff Jarrett?
It was definitely a big shock to me because, yeah, like you know, I knew Jeff Jarrett came back, but I wasn't exactly sure when, and I definitely don't remember this worked shoot interview that he does here. It was some interesting stuff. I loved, you know, him ripping into Vince after Vince started laughing about the Bischoff stuff. He then rips into a couple superstars, one about popping on a drug test and the other breaking his back. I think we could kind of guess who those two people were that he's talking about. But one perfect thing that I really loved is the Road Dogg just left the stupid Double J Jesse James gimmick behind. So I mean, they're going to kind of talk about it once or twice tonight, but we're not going to get a full-on feud like I feel we probably would have maybe a few months ago, in that, you know, Jeff Jarrett trying to fight for his name back or whatever bullshit. You know, good thing. Road Dogg is just the Kid Rock ripoff now, and we don't have to worry. We don't got to worry about the country star. So I was happy about that. And, you know, I liked where Jeff Jarrett was going, but by the time he started getting into Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels and Steve Austin, it was going a little too long. I feel like he made his point. He should have known when to shut the fuck up and just put the mic down. But I'm not going to hate on it that much. I enjoyed most of it, just a little too long.
Yeah, I kind of wanted Steve Austin to come back out and dish out a stunner here.
Yeah, that's what I was waiting for, to be honest. Yeah,
I think it came off as very whiny, bitchy type thing, and if that's what he's going for, then bravo. You know, if he's going for like a I'm pissed off Stone Cold Steve Austin type thing, this didn't work for me, brother. So we'll see where it goes from here. I didn't dislike his promo. I think that if I was in the live crowd, I probably would have hated it. They were booing. if I was, 15 years old, I probably have no clue about half the shit he's talking about.
Yeah.
But now it's, watching it now, it's good. But I'm interested to see where they go with it. Like you guys, I did not know he was coming back this soon.
Yeah, I mean, I took it to be he's just kind of being a whiny bitch about things because he's just always kind of been that way. Even when he doesn't try to be, it's like his tone of voice or the way he speaks or I don't know, something. He just kind of sounds like an entitled wrestling promoter's kid.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I enjoyed the hell out of it. So I'm really looking forward to seeing where that goes. I'm pretty sure Jeff Jarrett is what it takes to get Jackie back in, right?
No, I don't think so. I think doesn't Jackie team up with Mark Marrow when she comes in?
Yeah. But that's later on, though. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Total surprise, though. So who knows where the fuck it's going to go. All right. Hey, speaking of, let's go to our next match. Mark Marrow with Sable defeats Brian Christopher by pinfall in 4 minutes and 11 seconds. Brian Christopher was escorted out by Jerry Lawler. I was a little confused by that, but whatever. We'll see where that goes, too. And I fucking hate Sable coming out with Marrow. Like Marrow's trying, He's embraced the new gimmick, the new look. He's got new music. Like, Marrow's entrance, I feel at least, it's a great visual now. But then you have fucking Sable just waltzing down next to him, waving like she's the homecoming queen riding on a rented convertible or some shit, Like, so out of place, so... I don't know. Just walking and waving does not seem like the appropriate thing for a wrestling valet to do.
Well, she was twirling that whip.
At one point in the match, Lawler took a Stone Cold hat over to Sable to try to get her to model it. Fucking hated it. But then Marrow noticed it. He came to the outside to take the hat off of Sable and toss it into the crowd. So I guess there's progress there on him eventually turning heel. The action in the ring was better than serviceable. So there's that. There were a few instances where you could see Marrow backsliding to the cartoony, exaggerated movements that he used to use, but he self-corrected pretty quickly on most of them. Marrow ended up hitting the TKO for the victory before angrily dragging Sable out of the ring area, and that is where this ended. So, comparatively, this was probably the weakest segment of the night so far. But with that being said, it was still fairly entertaining. Marrow did backslide a teensy bit with his ring work, but he is still on an upward trajectory as far as I'm concerned. The only thing I didn't like about this was Sable, but, unfortunately she's here to stay. So, hey man, whatever. Joe, what'd you have on this match?
Well, my feelings on Sable are kind of the opposite, I guess, because I think that Sable and Mark Marrow both just I think they look so much better than when they were doing the Wild Man shit.
Mm-hmm.
And Sable, Sable is the prototype, I guess, pinup type look for that time period. I mean, she's tall, she's lean, she has big fake boobs, big blonde hair, I mean, she is the prototype for that time period of that pinup type model.
Yeah, we're at the age of Pam Anderson right now. And
yes. So
that's what she's trying to go for.
The people love it.
Give the people what they want.
Yes. And you know what? I do enjoy seeing Brian Christopher going up against someone who is not a light heavyweight or whatever the hell they're called. So I thought that was pretty cool. Hopefully that's a trend that continues.
Yeah, Joe, I'm going to agree. We give, Sable some shit over how fake she looks at time, mostly her voice. But I got to say, tonight was probably my favorite look for her. She had those glasses on.
The look is there, and that's about it, And
I mean, and honestly, that's 90% of Sable, right? So.
Yeah.
I, at the start, really loved Brian Christopher mock boxing as making fun of Mark Marrow. I thought that was really funny and just really played into the growth I feel that Brian Christopher has been making and my feelings about him, because the match started and he's wrestling up a weight class here, but I thought the action was solid, and here I am, 2 Mark Marrow matches in a row, not hating it. I'm going to take my temperature after it's done here, but I didn't hate this match at all. Commentary again brought up Janet Reno. So I looked up to see, was there like something that happened right now? And I couldn't find anything. So I don't know why they were on this Janet Reno kick, but they were.
They mentioned last week that this was about the time that, not Whitewater. Whitewater was the first Clinton scandal. The second one with the woman down in Arkansas, Paula.
Oh, Paula,
Jones.
yeah.
Paula Jones, yeah. So that there were Paula Jones investigations going on right now, which is why Janet Reno was in the news.
Gotcha. When I looked up like October 1997, it was just like random stories about her, but nothing real, concrete. Okay, so that explains their fascination with Janet Reno.
I'd rather be in Janet Reno sign will be there next week.
Yeah. The King claims that JR has a poster of Janet Reno up in his room, so that's the joke that he's bringing her into. Solid match that I was, I guess, not surprised. After the last time we saw Mark, we were optimistic, and the optimism's going to continue.
Yeah, agreed there. And I mean, I can't see it in Sable. I was never able to see it. I can't see it now. I think you guys are just blinded by the bolt-ons.
Well, that's obviously what she's showing off there.
And Vince blowing his load every time she comes out. Look at her.
32,000 cc's each. Well, that last match was the final segment of the first hour.
That's actually where Ahmed gets his oil. He just squirts him out of those things.
Oh, God. Come here, baby. Let me express some oil. All right. So that match was the final segment of the first hour. So as we made the transition to the second hour here, I was pretty curious to see how they were going to kick it off. They had a brief video package putting over Owen Hart as the true hitman of the Hart Foundation, with replays of Owen putting down Shawn Michaels with that enziguri, replays of breaking Stone Cold Steve Austin's neck. And after the Beefcake Warehouse video, we came back to Owen coming out for the next match, and I noticed that in his Titantron video, there's a rewind replay of Owen breaking Austin's neck over a few times. Pay attention next time. He goes down in the pile driver, and then it rewinds just enough to go up about a foot, and then back down again, and then up about a foot, and then back down again. It's kind of synced to the beat of his music, so it's actually kind of entertaining. But that is what took us into our next match. Owen Hart versus Shawn Michaels ends in a no contest in 9 minutes and 35 seconds, with Owen retaining the Intercontinental title and Shawn retaining the European title. Keep in mind, this was a title versus title match. I know it's mostly because Bret's contract was broken, but I really love the push for Owen here. Some of what they're doing with him doesn't really make sense. It feels like they're maybe trying to throw shit at the wall and see what sticks, but I'll take it. I don't care. Anytime I get Owen in singles action, I will absolutely sit down and watch. Owen started this on the microphone to call out Shawn, saying that they should settle it like men with DX staying out of it, and Owen said he'll make the Hart Foundation stay out of it. Just Shawn and Owen, eyeball to eyeball. DX came out. Rick Rude introduced Shawn Michaels, and Shawn told the rest of DX to go back and leave him and Owen to it. And this match started with just Owen and Shawn. I was very happy about that. Things were red hot when this got started at high speed, with all of the action looking good. We got a view of the Hart Foundation watching the match from backstage, and after a quick commercial break, came back to just as much energy in the ring as we had left with. And I was sucked into this. These guys, they even had a brief break with a rest hold. Owen was putting a sleeper on Shawn that Shawn reversed with a nice suplex, and then they were immediately back to it at full speed. But just as I was wondering where the next big spot was going to be, it came in the form of Stone Cold Steve Austin. But this time, everyone saw him coming. The referee tried to stop him, and the referee got a stunner for his trouble. That gave Shawn the opening to hit the sweet chin music, but without the ref, no one could make the count. That drew out Bret Hart, and for a brief moment, we had Bret versus Shawn in the ring, which was just titillating, until DX and the Hart Foundation both ended up in the ring to break things up. Vince kept trying to say that someone got disqualified, and JR had to keep correcting him that no one could have been disqualified. Thus, it was a no contest. This episode, for me at least, it just keeps on hitting these high notes. This match was no exception. I loved it. Ryan, what'd you have on the way that we kicked off the second hour here?
Yeah, very strong way to kick off the second hour of Raw with these two heavy hitters. And I'm going to start, Owen, we talked about how he definitely needed new music, and he did. High Energy was just sounding a little too dated, but I don't know about this music. It sounds like a traffic jam and then like a heavy truck backing up. And I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it's something new, but I'm not sure I like it yet. But that part doesn't matter. Owen Hart, Shawn Michaels beating the shit out of each other. I loved that. They started off great wave, Owen saying, let's leave our factions behind and just go toe to toe. And they did for a good chunk of this match, and it looked really great. There was a sign in the crowd asking to bring back Kamala. I popped my ass off on that one. Yes, bring back Kamala. But outside of signs in the crowd taking away some of my attention, the action was just fast-paced, hard-hitting, everything looked good, and then, boom, out of nowhere, Stone Cold stuns the ref. And I love that it was the ref that got stunned here. Yeah. We're expecting it to be probably Owen. Owen would be the logical choice here. But no, it is the ref. And then we just go, which is the right choice here, because I was kind of thinking going into this, like, I don't remember these titles switching hands or either one of them having both. So I knew some fuckery had to happen to make both keep their own belts, but I mean, they got me the whole way. This was, my opinion, so far the most entertaining match of the night, which is saying something because we've had some good action.
Yeah, I agree. This was really good action. They really hyped this up a lot before the match started. They had that video package and, title for title. So it was a little disappointing that, they hyped it up so much, title for title, and then we just get this no contest finish. But at the same time, it was kind of to be expected, I guess.
Yeah.
So, it wasn't too disappointing. The match was really good. They're really, I got to thinking about Shawn here working heel, and they're really invested into this D-Generation X stuff right now, into the story. And I had to think, like, it had to be even more enabling for Shawn's terrible behavior behind closed doors to have him doing this DX gimmick, and it just, I don't know. It's entertaining, but at the same time, you think about what's going on in the back, and it's just like, oh, man, this is just making things worse, I think. But,
and then the other wrestlers seeing Vince like, I love it, I love it.
Yes. Degenerates. I also tried to find out who came up with that name, because I think the name D-Generation X is very good. It's very clever, and I could not find anything confirmed.
No.
Shawn Michaels claimed that it was Vince Russo, and Triple H claims that it was Shane McMahon that came up with it. So there's a little bit of conflicting stories there. But yeah, this was good. I mean, you get Shawn Michaels and Owen Hart singles match, it's going to be good, right?
Absolutely. Yep. There's nothing more you can tack onto that. That's the best way to put it. Moving along, we'll be getting Dude Love versus the British Bulldog here pretty soon. But after a commercial break, we came back to The Undertaker, shrouded in darkness with a faint purple glow behind him. Great visual here. Ready to talk, finally, about the revelation of his brother Kane. The Undertaker, as they started to slowly zoom in on him, almost had a tear in his eye as he talked about the past and what brought them to that point, with the bottom line there being that he will never fight his brother. Next week, Bret Hart will defend the championship against Ken Shamrock. That's kind of a surprise, but I do look forward to that. That sounds like that's going to be a great match. And I wanted to pause it there. So, Ryan, as our resident asshole for The Undertaker, what did you think about Undertaker's promo here, the first time he's addressing the problem of his brother Kane?
Well, this was another great chapter in this long, long story they're going to tell of The Undertaker and Kane. And here we now have Undertaker saying, hey, for 20 years, I thought my brother was dead. And, now he's back. But as he looked him in the eye, he could see that he's been possessed by a demon, poisoned by Paul Bearer. He's sad over that. And because of that, he says he will never fight his own flesh and blood. He will never face Kane. So it's just great storytelling. This is a little bit more talking than we're typically used to out of The Undertaker, but it's fitting, and he delivers it pretty well, I thought.
Yeah, it's great long-term booking for sure when you're trying to come up with ideas of how to, where are we going to go with this? The only option is the I will never fight my brother option to carry you into, I think it's WrestleMania, right? That they finally have their match.
Yeah.
So this is going to go on for months, and this is really the correct route to take. And it's funny to me how much they borrow from like horror movies, because you think about Halloween, Michael Myers comes back to kill his sister years later, so it's funny how they just kind of borrow ideas and just make it into this great, it's not believable, but it's entertaining story.
Yeah, agreed there. The way that, so Ryan, you'd mentioned that this was a lot of talking for The Undertaker, and comparably to the talking that he was doing before that we didn't like. That was him as champion. That was him trying to prop up this whole scenario that was all just an audible that had been called. But this stuff, I don't mind a long-winded Undertaker whenever it suits the story. That the whole, possessed by a demon, like that's such an Undertaker thing to say. It's so perfectly fitting, and it's so great that he had the time to let this flow out of him, Really, he's a really great storyteller whenever the story is appropriate for him. And it's just that we haven't gotten a lot of appropriate for him stories up to this point. All right, so let's go then to our next match. Dude Love versus the British Bulldog ends in a no contest before it could get started.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Well, Duder's got a video. It was pretty great. Vince was a big fan of it. And I feel like the phrase ends in a no contest before it could get started pretty much tells you where this is going to go. The lights went out, the organ music played, and hellfire and brimstone hit the arena. Dude Love, to his credit, put up a great fight against Kane, even putting Kane out of the ring. Kane ends up tanking a chair shot and then goozling the Duder into a chokeslam on the ramp. And then one more time before leaving as Vince roared, "Hell hath no fury like Kane."
Jeez.
And that's more or less where this ended. I was really happy to see that Dude Love put up more of a fight than the fucking Hardy Boys. But the buildup of this monster continues, and I love the way they're doing it. Joe, what did you think of our latest Kane no contest?
Well, there's not much to analyze, I guess. I don't remember the use of the red light during these early Kane squash jobs, so that is interesting. And I don't know. I just got to think, like, I like what they're doing with Kane. I think it's fantastic. They're making him into this indestructible monster type gimmick, and he's even destroying guys like Dude Love, who is not a jobber. But I think about, we talked about the long-term booking, and it's the thing I think about is what is the best way to bring them back down to reality. They're destroying everybody, but at some point they're going to have to stop doing that. So, that'll be the thing that we're going to probably end up talking about in a few months or so.
So I have to admit, when Dude Love was standing in the ring and the red light came on and I heard Kane's music start, I was not very thrilled. But, Duder, he puts up a fight like no one else, actually clotheslines Kane over the top rope. Kane does the great Undertaker flip over, land on his feet thing, and then he no-sells a chair shot and double choke slams Dude. So I was very thankful that the Dude put up a bit of a fight so I didn't have to slap him with Jobber of the Week, because the other people, man, they got jobbed out when they were up against Kane. One thing, Joe, to touch on, you were talking about the red light that they have on during this. Something I remember, and, a bit of a spoiler alert here, in the near future, Kane and Mankind will have a pay-per-view match. I believe it's Kane's very first wrestling match, and that entire match is bathed in red light. I don't know if you guys remember that.
Yeah, now that you mention it, yeah. Yeah, and also, Joe, you had said about how they're building him as this monster, and I agree. I mean, they're doing a good job of it here, and they're eventually going to have to bring him back to reality.
And eventually he'll become a jobber.
But I mean, do you think maybe they learned their lesson from Vader? Because isn't this the exact problem that we had with Vader whenever he debuted, is he should have been doing what Kane is doing now?
Yeah, definitely. And part of that might have been, I believe when Vader came in, he was fresh off an injury that he was nursing and
overweight.
Yeah. I mean, I think Vader has some blame in it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move it to our next match. Billy Gunn and the Road Dogg defeat the Headbangers, Mosh and Thrasher, by pinfall in 4 minutes and 4 seconds. These guys were the tag champs like 2 weeks ago. And now they're jobbing out to Rockabilly and the fucking Roadie. If I didn't laugh,
Kid
I'd
Road.
cry. Yeah.
Roadkill.
Roadkill, there you go.
The Road Dogg got on the mic to introduce them as Badass Billy Gunn and the Road Dogg. This was a very prototypical New Age Outlaws intro. A lot of the same words. Some things are different. You can tell it's a work in progress, but you could also tell that while the crowd wasn't exactly reacting, they were definitely listening to what was being said. They were at least intrigued by what they were hearing rather than just booing them outright. So that's a step in the right direction, I felt. Here is where I just loved Vince using the term pelvic thrust. I don't know why that tickled me so much.
He sounded like such a boomer. He said pelvic thrusts seem to be all the rage these days.
The Road Dogg and Billy Gunn were working fairly well together already, but this match was the first low spot of the night for me. And not because it was necessarily bad, it looked like there were maybe some communication problems in the ring. JR got very red-assed about Road Dogg, going off repeatedly. I hope that doesn't develop into anything. I can't remember if it does, but that was concerning.
He was almost reverting to heel JR from the fake Razor days.
Yeah.
Oh no.
And I couldn't tell why. They were just being assholes in the ring like every other heel team so far. I don't know
They're
why Road
Dogg.
Maybe it was the pelvic thrusts.
Yeah.
The Headbangers showcased how well they work with tag moves. No surprise there. And just as I was typing that, I guess the Headbangers had brought a boombox down to the ring with them. I hadn't seen it there earlier, but Billy Gunn blasted Thrasher with it. Just exploded this fucking boombox all over the ring.
Boombox.
And the referee did not see it.
No.
The ref gave Road Dogg the pin and the win in the middle of a pile of electronics parts. Even JR said that the ref needed to just take a look around, for God's sakes. Billy Gunn and the Road Dogg made sure to stop by commentary and yell at everyone, which I've noticed is becoming a habit of people that want to try to get over, especially in this episode. There were a lot of people stopping by the commentary table to bitch at Vince. I guess they're starting to notice that's the trend of the future. And that is where this ended. In my opinion, this was the weakest part of the episode so far. and really only because of the ring work. It felt a little sloppy and thrown together, but I was happy to have the still unnamed New Age Outlaws out and the Road Dogg practicing on the microphone, so that's progress as far as I'm concerned. Ryan, what'd you think of this?
It was a very forgettable match. Definitely the weakest so far, at least, that we've had. Not that it was terrible. It just, it was very forgettable. But it was cool to have the New Age Outlaws come out and to get Road Dogg doing his whole prototype of the ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls intro. This is going to get refined as the months go on. At this point, there's a line that says you better page somebody instead of call somebody. So that was definitely putting it in 97 with the pager talk. But I would agree that the action looked a little bit off. There were, I don't know if it was the timing or communication, but this just wasn't a very smooth match by any means. And the JR, starting with his red-assed JR shtick here, stuck out to me as well. On top of being super pissed off at the crotch thrusts, he then says to Billy Gunn, after Billy Gunn flexes, "We saw it, you idiot." He was really getting pissed off, JR, and then out of nowhere, a boombox just explodes like there was an M80 put in it. That thing just, I was shocked at how much debris flew in the air off of a simple boombox hitting someone's head. But the ref didn't see it, even though he was showered in plastic parts. I don't know. Yeah, this was a very throwaway match for sure.
Yeah, if you're watching it at the time, it was probably like, what the fuck? What the fuck is this?
Piss break.
Yeah. Watching it now, though, I think I had a lot of fun watching this, seeing these, the very, very early stages of the Outlaws. Ryan, you mentioned you better page somebody, and they look foolish and cheesy right now.
Yeah.
But you know, the one thing is they definitely work well together, and they're not working a cheesy style. There was no fucking clowning around when they were actually wrestling in the match, where before, you know, with Rockabilly and doing his stupid dancing and what the fuck was the other guy called? Rhodey and fucking Double J, you know, doing his doing his dancing and singing. Like, they're not doing that anymore. They're working well together, and you know, we're going to see them, you know, feel some things out at first and eventually get to the New Age Outlaws that we all love. So pretty fun to watch, I think.
And maybe the biggest bonus of all, no honky tonk man.
Yes.
So, all right, so let's go now to the video of last Thursday in Stamford. Vince signed a contract with Taka Michinoku. Bruce Pritchard was in the video there, standing next to Vince, looking quite rotund. After a quick commercial break, Sunny came out. She was not looking rotund. She was looking great.
I mean, except for her balance.
Well, so that's funny that you say that, because I thought she seemed pretty sober. Well, I mean, you know, she had to take off those ridiculous high heels she was wearing, but they're ridiculous high heels, you know?
I guess. But
Sure.
the silver dress did look something else.
Yeah. And you have to admit, so what the thing that made me think that she was sober is the way that she interacted with the crowd. Well, not really interacted with the crowd so much as did her fucking job without seeming like a intoxicated degenerate in the ring here. She's such a natural at grabbing a crowd and speaking in front of them. She does great in this ring announcer thing, and it's only for 3 seconds before a match and maybe 1 second after, but I'll take it because she is still much better than Sable could ever hope to be.
She definitely demands attention.
Yeah. Yes. Well, commentary briefly talked more about signing Taka to a contract, and that led into our next match. Taka Michinoku defeats Tajiri by pinfall in 2 minutes and 55 seconds. I was excited to see this, even though we were still getting some red ass out of JR on commentary. He did mellow down, but it took a minute. Taka hit a very nice roundhouse kick from the top rope. I liked that. And I started to notice, and I don't know if this was just me, but the chemistry between these two seemed a little lacking. I really can't put my finger on why. I mean, you would think that they would be able to work well together, spot calling in Japanese maybe, or just simply working the Japanese style together like they're both obviously used to. That's not to say that there weren't good things. Tajiri hit an amazing-looking powerbomb on Taka, and also an amazing-looking enziguri. And the match ended with a Michinoku driver that Tajiri unfortunately telegraphed himself into, and then really badly telegraphed himself into the pin following it, lifting his legs up for Taka to grab. And that's all I had. This match it felt like it was another step down after that tag match that preceded it. And I hate saying that. I love watching both of these competitors. It just felt like something was lacking here. Joe, what'd you think about this match?
Yeah, well, we talked about Sable earlier. I mentioned that I thought she looked great tonight on this show. And Sunny definitely looks great too and has that 90s stripper look down. She's got the clear heels and the tiny silver dress. Yeah, looking like a 90s stripper. And that's, again, the people, you got to give them what they want. And I agree with you, Bartlett, with kind of a step down here. And to me, this was a little bit of a step down for Taka, too, because we're highlighting his signing, even though we've seen like 5 of his matches already. So it doesn't really hit me at all, especially seeing Bruce Pritchard looking like a total stooge. And this was just a really quick spot fest type match. So it's tough to watch these types of matches because who else is going to wrestle Taka right now? And what kind of stories can we get out of it? Probably not very much.
Yeah, I'd agree with you too. I mean, I didn't hate the match. There were some good spots in it, but it was just a quick spot fest. That's what it was. At the beginning, I thought Taka, the one move that did look impressive was that roundhouse kick off the top rope. Vince refers to it as a unbelievable athletic maneuver. I just had to point that out. And JR tells us November 3rd in Hershey, Pennsylvania, that we're going to start a light heavyweight tournament, which I assume is going to end with some type of a belt or trophy or something. So I bitched about a couple weeks ago that, where is all of these light heavyweight matches going? And here we are. They're answering us. They're going to do something with it. So I'm looking forward to that. I didn't hate this match. Joe, I agree. We've talked about in the past, not real big spot fest fans. And that's all this was.
Yeah. Yeah, I was also kind of curious with that whole light heavyweight tournament because we've got, 3 people that can wrestle in it?
Yeah. Is it going to be maybe a round robin tournament, like double elimination? Yeah. And I don't know.
Yeah. I also thought it was really funny, Joe, whenever you said, we had the focus on the signing ceremony, but we've already got like 5 matches. The last person that we got focused on their signing ceremony was Tiger Ali Singh.
Oh.
No.
Well, to the moon, then. To the moon with Taka.
All right, let's go to James E. Cornette next for another candid statement. Apparently, some viewers had left comments on the TV Guide message boards in response to Phil Mushnick's article in the New York Post that we referenced last week. Corny read a variety of comments from a variety of human beings, followed by an apparent retort from Mushnick. And after Corny concluded his comments, they put up a screen graphic pretty much asking the fans of the WWF to dox TV Guide and Phil Mushnick, giving a P.O. box address where they can send their comments. And that was followed by a repeat of that wrestling figure commercial earlier with the headbangers and the LOD figures.
And here's the address of Phil Mushnick's mother.
And just like the last ones, I'm leaving out a ton of detail. This is worth listening to because, it's Jim Cornette rapid firing some clever comments, and that never gets old. Joe, what did you think about Cornette's newest fireside chat here?
It's something that would never, ever, ever happen now. I mean, encouraging people to write hate mail to somebody. Man, that's crazy, right? I mean, there are real stalkers and lunatics out there that might.
When did the Unabomber get arrested?
Yeah. They might do more than just write a nasty letter to Phil. So
now it's Spectrum Cable.
Pretty ballsy move here.
Yeah, I don't have a ton more to add. Not that this isn't a segment to go listen to. It is. But there's not much to really add here. It's Jim Cornette reading a bunch of angry wrestling fans' responses to Phil Mushnick. So if that's something you're interested in, go listen to this segment.
Yep. Yeah, and I mean, so there's one more match left in the episode. Do you guys want to talk about anything else before we get to it, maybe? Or no? Or do you just want to rip the Band-Aid off?
Let's do it. Quick.
All right.
Might as well just go right to lowlights, which is the next match.
Our final match of the night. The Disciples of Apocalypse, 8-Ball and Skull, versus the Godwins, Henry and Phineas, ends in a no contest before it can start, and this time it wasn't Kane.
Sadly.
Yeah. The Godwins were wearing Oklahoma State Sooners t-shirts with Sooners crossed out and Texas Longhorns written all over it. I think that is why JR was red ass.
That's just not right.
Yeah, he was pissed off all night over that.
Mm-hmm. Boomer Sooner. And just as DOA got in the ring, the rest of DOA got in the ring too, just out of nowhere, making it a 4-on-2. The bell had not been rung. But then the Truth Commission, oh God, hit the ring to attack DOA. The fucking Kurgan was curb stomping Crush in the corner. And I almost wanted to be happy about that if it wasn't for everything else going on around it. But then out of nowhere, we went to Mankind in what appeared to be some kind of boiler room. Mankind cut a great promo here, saying that if The Undertaker has qualms about fighting his brother, Mankind has no such principles, challenging Kane to a fight anywhere, anytime, anyhow, and that is where we faded to black. I was so conflicted at the end of this because I loved the Mankind promo from the boiler room, but it felt like it was in the wrong place, specifically as a part of this clusterfuck ending, which, by the way, was such a fitting way to end this episode, We had an amazing episode up through and including Kane's treatment of Dude Love. It felt like it went downhill quickly after that, and to finish things with DOA, the Godwins, and the fucking Truth Commission in this bullshit segment was just a great reminder that as good as an episode can be, the WWF still doesn't quite have its shit together yet. And unfortunately, Mankind kind of suffered a little bit as a result of that. I just wish that maybe would have happened before this match. I don't know. Nitpicking dickbag maybe, but Ryan, what'd you think about this final segment and the way that Raw ended tonight?
Well, I mean, the final segment started out really bad. Godwins and the dipshits in the ring, and nothing gets started. Immediately, the Truth Commission comes down, and I'm thinking to myself, is it physically possible to cram any more people in this ring that I hate? And I really don't think it is. Thankfully, we didn't have to watch a match between them, though. It just dissolves into chaos, and we leave. Then, thankfully, we go to Mankind before the end of Raw to try and salvage it, and he does the best he can. He's again back in a boiler room, and I really loved this. I guess it's part of the story, Here we were earlier in the night, Dude Love got goozled by Kane, and Mick Foley has decided to revert back to Mankind, and this was early Mankind promo, from a year ago type of a promo we would have got out of Mankind. And I thought it was a great job of just kind of going full circle, and we're now back to you pissed Mick Foley off, Mankind's back, So I thought a great way to end it, but yeah, they really put a shit taste in our mouth with the segment before it.
Yeah, I guess ignoring the Mankind promo, because I'm thinking about the live crowd and what they get here, and that's absolute trash. You have the Godwins. If I'm not mistaken, the Godwins closed out Raw last week too, right? When they beat up Cletus or whatever. Did that close the show?
Yeah, because LOD won the titles.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now you throw DOA in and Truth Commission. What a shitty way to end the show. And that's, Bartlett, you brought up a good point. And I guess I've been kind of pointing it out too throughout the weeks, is like, who puts these shows together? They have really good content, but just transitions from one segment to another. It's like, we talked earlier about the Bret Hart Farooq thing. Why was that not the end of the show?
Yeah.
Instead of this trash. Yeah, just real head scratcher here for sure.
I know. Let's finish the episode with DOA and the Godwins, and the Truth Commission can run in. All right. Well, as I said, we faded to black, so let's take it on over to highlights and lowlights. Joe, why don't you take that first?
Well, lowlight's easy. It's the ending with this trash that they threw out into the ring for this poor Oklahoma crowd.
The Trash Commission.
Yes. Yeah. The highlight for me, I'm going to go all the way back to the beginning, and that is seeing Rocky Maivia and Ken Shamrock in action. I think this is the first time in a while that we've seen Ken Shamrock in action, too. So that was nice to see that he is back.
My low light, no shocker, it's going to line right up with yours, Joe. The final segment with the Honey Dippers, Godwins, and the Truth Commission. Heaping pile of shit. Definitely the low light. My highlight is going to go to the Shawn Michaels Owen Hart match. Before the no contest in it, it was one hell of a show. It's no shocker there, but I really enjoyed that matchup.
Yeah. So for my highlights, so many to choose from, and the matches that you two have mentioned, those were absolutely in the running for me. But I ended up going with the Mankind promo from the Boiler Room. Ryan, you put it best, full circle. I was so excited to see that come up on the screen and just realize, like, oh shit, like we've rounded back to Mankind now. Mick Foley is going to be staying present. It's almost like a freshening up of Mick Foley, even though it's not a fresh gimmick. You know what I mean? And I'm excited. Mankind versus Kane. That just sounds like an excellent fucking story. My lowlights is the rest of the finish to the episode. None of that.
3 for 3 there.
Yeah. Whoever came up with that just needs to be whipped by Farooq.
There was that Vic Venom.
Oh my God.
Probably.
Farooq should whip Vic Venom with Sable's whip.
Just rapid fire. Joseph, do you have any contemporary wrestling news from on and around October 20th, 1997 for us?
Yes, I do have some good stuff to report here from the Observer this week. First item is a little bit outside of the WWF here, but two former Wrasslin Raw favorites here. Bam Bam Bigelow.
Yeah.
He captured the ECW Heavyweight Championship from Shane Douglas on October 16th. And a rematch is set for the next pay-per-view on November 30th in Monaca, PA.
Whoa, Monaca. Wow.
If I'm not mistaken, isn't that the building they used to call the Beaver Dome?
I think it is.
Well, I thought that you guys would specifically enjoy that because of the Monaca. And
absolutely.
For our listeners, I assumed they'd be entertained by the word beaver.
Yeah, yep.
Now, that is also just outside of Shane Douglas's hometown, as we know. There's a huge ratings analysis in this week's Observer. I'm not going to go into the details from Dave Meltzer, but one thing I learned here is that Nitro still runs from 8 to 10, and Raw runs from 9 to 11. So take that for what it's worth when we're talking about ratings. But Nitro on this night, October 20th, drew its largest audience ever up to this point for an opposed show, doing a 4.54 rating. And just to give you some perspective, Raw on this night drew a 2.96. So they are indeed getting their asses kicked.
Yeah.
Steve Austin did not end up working the house shows over the weekend as earlier predicted by Dave Meltzer. He did a couple run-ins. In fact, the doctor in Philadelphia advised Steve Austin that he should rest another 2 months and get another evaluation. at that time.
That bum. The cigarettes ran out. Go see some other doctor.
We talked about Taka's signing already. That happened on October 16th. The New York Post received more than 1,000 hate letters and emails as a result of Jim Cornette's promo. And TV Guide reportedly received more than that. Dave Meltzer goes on to say that, unfortunately, most of the responses only confirmed Mushnick's thoughts about most wrestling fans. Because
shocker there.
Because the responses were more along the lines of suck my dick and blow me rather than addressing any actual issues. My goodness. The people have
spoken, and they want it sucked.
It's not a surprise.
Ryan, I know you wanted more run-ins during the last match here. Maybe perhaps you wanted to see Aldo Montoya run in during that.
God,
yeah.
Unfortunately, you would not, because PJ Walker has been given his release from WWF.
So over to ECW he goes.
Yes, Paul Lee has snagged PJ Walker. And the last piece of news here is that Bret Hart is scheduled to appear on Fox's Mad TV on November 1st.
Nice.
And that is all.
All right. Thank you, Joseph. Enlightening as always. And that's it, folks. We are done with this one. I want to thank you again for joining us. If you like what we're doing here and want to connect with us, you can email us at WRASSLINRAW, just add at gmail.com to the end of that to submit questions or comments. Check us out on social media and then on every podcast subscription platform. While you're there, don't forget to follow and subscribe to get every episode of Wrasslin Raw coming to you every week. Give us a 5-star review and tell all of your friends to tune in to the most hellacious Monday Night Raw review podcast on the airwaves. Next week on Wrasslin Raw, we're going to take a look at the Raw that aired on October 27th, 1997, with matches featuring the New Blackjacks, Los Boricuas, and many more. So, for Joe and Ryan, I'm Jason, and this has been Wrasslin Raw.